Oh, hello, yeah. Well, it's midweeky. Hooray and goody. Anyway, today I thought we'd just generically have a bit of a look and see what's been happening with the Reform Party. After all, in the polls, in the leading in the polls, so it's brilliant, isn't it? Reform Party, yeah. I mean, I could be rude about loads and loads of other political parties in the UK, and I might well take a sideswipe at them in the middle of this. But for today, it's going to be Reform. There was Jake Berry who was writing in the Telegraph about how dreadful it is that you, yes, you, aren't going to be allowed to watch as much brilliant content as you might want because of those pesky souls at Ofcom. Yeah, apparently they're jumping up and down again about certain things which they really shouldn't. We just shouldn't have regulation of free speech whatsoever. But yeah, the problem I have personally with what Jake was saying in the Telegraph was, well, first of all, he was a minister without portfolio in the last government that weren't brilliant, should we say. I think it's fair to say that, isn't it? Yeah, they weren't entirely brilliant, were they? No. And realistically, what Ofcom are suggesting is that certain internet providers of content, news or otherwise, like GB News, might want to, not do the things that they do. But, I think it's a bit unfortunate for Jake now that he has joined Reform. Hooray! Hugely ahead in the polls, etc. Yeah, and him to be suggesting that, well, we should just get to see a lot more of their basic propaganda because, let's face it, that's what it is. I mean, would any other sort of democratic system allow basically just one person from a political party to basically have their own TV show? I mean, how come there's no Lib Dem TV show or Labour Party TV show or whatever it might be? And, those people that realistically don't like those other parties always seem to argue that, well, we just do because that's what the BBC does because it's run by communists, even though it's run by people that, were appointed by the same government that Jake Berry was part of. But that's just me being picky about, well, factual things, isn't it? Yes. And, the whole panoply of the delights of non-Ofcom regulated media was certainly on sight yesterday. I mean, for example, we've now had the Robert Jenrick phone-in show, which is great, yeah, because, we need to push that particular agenda, don't we? I mean, I didn't see a lot of phone-ins with, certain Zach leaders of the Green Party when he was wanting to be leader. Didn't quite happen, did it? Odd that. Still, we're adults. We can deal with that kind of thing, can't we? And yesterday as well, there's a link down below. I don't want to bore you with bits of the interview, but there was a very soft soap interview with Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform. Oh, aren't they doing well? They're very high up in the polls, aren't they? Ooh, brilliant. Anyway, him and it was a very soft touch interview because of course Reform have been in the news, haven't they? High up in the polls, brilliant, eh? Yeah, about Kent Council, but Richard, oh God, was trying to defend the indefensible because we were told, weren't we, if you recall, that first of all that there was going to be a lot of positive vetting of their candidates, and that didn't seem to quite actually happen. I'm not really quite sure about the vetting company, whether or not Nigel's asked for the money back. Might come back to that notion in just a second. But there was no. I mean, there are all these people that stood to be Reform councillors who either A, couldn't have done because they were actually local government employees, which you're not allowed to do to stand as a councillor. You would have thought a vetting process would have got rid of them pretty quickly. So there were a whole spate of by-elections right after the local elections, and there have been a number of people that have had to go because they are exercising their right to free speech on social media quite aggressively, one might say. And of course the latest one is the unfortunate video leaky video. Oh, yeah, I eventually said that, of Reform councillors having to go at each other at Kent, which was going to be the flagship one. And, I'm sorry, but Richard is a bit sort of, at best, disingenuous in the interview because he suggests that, it was never said that Reform were going to reduce council tax, except, well, I seem to recall that a lot of people were kind of realistically enormously hinting at that. Well, they were, weren't they? And the whole beef at Kent is basically what they want to do is not put up council tax by 5%. because then they'll be in line with all of the other people. So what Richard does in the interview is blame the Labour government. Boo hiss, they're all bad. He also manages to take a swipe at children with special educational needs children because, they're just being pushy and demanding. Boo hiss. And then finally, he gets round to, the fact that certain individual councillors who, I don't know, may or may not have been positively vetted, did the nasty and basically went to The Guardian. I mean, for God's sake, The Guardian? I mean, Liberals read that, for God's sake. Yeah, it's a pluralistic... Oh, hang on, that's a bit of pluralistic media. Yeah, well, that's wrong anyway, okay? Anyway, the bad people who perhaps should have been vetted better. I get confused. Anyway, no, what he was saying was categorically that he's identified, and Doge, you remember the Doge team that was going to come in and save loads of money, just like Elon in America. Remember Elon's Doge thing? And they found all of that fraud. Remember all that fraud they found? And we haven't heard a peep out of that since. Apparently, loads of people committed tons and tons and tons of fraud, and none of them have been prosecuted for it. Bit strange, but never mind. He's got his own chainsaw from various Argentinian presidents, so that'll keep him busy for, I don't know, at least 15 seconds. But anyway, back to Richard. Yeah, anyway, apparently he's the Doge and him had identified hundreds of millions of pounds worth of savings that could be made. So it's a bit strange that they haven't been able to, having basically said they would, at least not put up council tax by the maximum the government's allowed. All very, very, very odd, and certainly in GB News' case, very, very soft soap. But as Richard was pointing out, these are people that know how to run businesses. After all, he's run businesses, and Nigel's run businesses. We run businesses, and it's all you need to know, isn't it? Yeah. Which is fine. But, of course, we now get to see that apparently that most basic bit of running a business, as in actually paying the right amount of VAT, is way beyond Nige and reform. I don't know. Maybe the positive vetting that should have gone on should have started right at the top, because it just strikes me that the people in reform are just a bunch of chancers who don't really know what they're doing and are prepared... They're prepared to say any old tosh in the vague hope that you, I, and the rest of the planet won't notice that it is any old tosh. And, of course, relying on changing the rules so that no one will ask them awkward questions, because that was about as awkward-y, question-y, it looks a bit bad, Richard, as GB News is going to get. Still, never mind, riding very high in the polls. I imagine the media will carry on and carry on and carry on with them as long as it can. Meanwhile, I do get the sense that people such as myself are noticing that it isn't quite as brilliant as we were promised. Still, never mind, I'm sure, things will be fine, won't they, when they're in charge, because they run businesses, really know what they're doing. I mean, apart from, the local government and the vetting and the accountancy and, the media stuff. All the other stuff's fine, isn't it? Yeah. Have a lovely, midweeky, if you can do.